Hey, once again, I'm gonna make like a 10-minute video. I'm gonna try to keep my videos like less than 15 minutes from now on, if possible. That's really the only way I can do these, like, and make the time is like do a quick, short video. And I tend to ramble anyway, so I think it would just be good to keep them short. But I saw this interview with someone on YouTube that I actually really like. They do amazing interviews and do a lot of like wellness and mental health awareness and stuff like that. So I really like watching their channel, and they mention like a phrase or a concept of big T and little t trauma. And that wasn't, I'd forgotten about it, but that wasn't the first time I had heard of, I guess it's like a concept, idea, school of thought, whatever. And like 100%, I understand, the idea that there are, in all of our lives, events that are more traumatic. Everyone has their most traumatic events and their absolute worst day of their lives. Everybody's going to have that, no matter who you are. But I don't know, maybe I'm just like missing something, or maybe I'm missing the point. But something about saying big T, little t trauma kind of feels icky to me. It just does. It's like, ugh, really? Like, we're comparing trauma now? I mean, maybe we're only supposed to be talking about it like relative to ourselves. Like, maybe that's how it is like, like we are the judge, like with our lives and our lives alone, like what was a capital T versus a lowercase t. Maybe that's it. But just like the way I've seen it brought up also, like in a couple other interviews, it was like, well, I was like molested, not me, but in an interview I watched, this woman said, I was abused as a child, big T trauma. And I like I said, I don't know if she was just saying that, like judging her trauma against like the rest of her life. But I don't know, something about it just feels like a trauma competition or something. And like, for sure there were like a few events that stuck out in my life as being like the most traumatic days, for me, like objectively from my perspective. It was when I was almost stabbed and had my throat slit and almost died and like literally had to fight for my life. And the 2 times I was sexually assaulted. Once I was like, the first time it was just like a regular rape. I don't know how to say regular, but you know what I mean. And then the second time was a date rape. And honestly, the date rape was worse because it's like the weirdest and most disgusting and like ickiest feeling, not knowing, and I'll never know. And it was just weird. It's a weird feeling to know. It's almost worse to not know. And like, those are definitely like the 3 most traumatic things. But then I think about it, I'm like, you know what? I was in like an abusive relationship for an extended period of time. It was very physically abusive, to the point where like, I was getting self-conscious to wear short sleeves in the summer because my arms were really bruised. I was like making up lies, like I was like that woman, and I was aware that I was that woman that was like making up lies to my friends and family. One time a family friend, I ran into her at a gas station, and I was like so bruised up that she actually like went to my sister later on that evening, like dropped what she was doing, went to my sister's house, and like they all like behind my back had like this family talk about what to do about my horribly abusive relationship. It was bad, and so I'm like, well, God, I guess that that whole thing could be considered like a big T. And it's like, what's not? And I guess that's really, they're for sure like doing something to a child. A child is like truly the only innocent thing. I don't think any adult, even when like I think it feels harsh to say, but there's no such thing as an innocent adult. Um, but there's absolutely, children are innocent. That they're the only innocent humans is a child. And there's that. And then there's like everything else. Um, and I think there is some level of accountability for everything that happens to us, even when it is seemingly random. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's kind of a controversial idea, but and the most traumatic things that happened to me, I definitely didn't, I have no guilt or take no responsibility for these violent acts. However, I could not have processed these acts of violence, and I could not have processed anything in my past if I did not take responsibility for the decisions I made to put myself in a position to potentially be in harm's way. I didn't love myself, I didn't respect myself, and I reflected that in my life day in and day out for years and years. And I was a broken person, and I surrounded myself with broken people, and some of them were violent and prone to violence. And I was never once like, just snatched off the street or anything like a, victim of opportunity. I put myself in a position to be potentially harmed by someone who, had sinister intentions, right? And so I had to take responsibility for my part in not taking better care of myself, and not really taking control over my life, and not loving myself, to not be so broken. I didn't take any responsibilities to fix myself, and so I let people try to break me more, inadvertently. So the thing, I guess, that really just kind of threw me off with like big T, little t trauma, besides the fact that it kind of feels like measuring pain and trauma, and when we measure trauma, I don't think it's really, even if we try to just measure it against our own 100% against our own experiences, I feel like it's like human nature to not really measure it entirely against ourselves, and so it just feels like the concept of big T trauma, it just can't help but be kind of like well, I had this happen, so yeah, I guess I'm the biggest T of them all. I don't know, it just feels something about it feels icky. I don't know how to say it, but I think with drug addicts and with self-destructive people, I think if you are prone to self-destruction, if you have mental illness that you have not dealt with, if you're prone to addiction, then like I said, you can't process pain. It's like an inability to process pain, and that is what half of life is. Life is half, beautiful wonder and whimsy, and just, breathtaking beauty in the smallest and grandest things. And it's also pain, the pain of existing, and just the potential ugliness of man, the pain of life. It really is like a mix of black and white, the good and the bad. And if you can't process pain, then you can't process half of life. You can't process life, right? So if you can't process pain, I just think all of your trauma, all of your pain is trauma, and all of your trauma is capital T, because one leads to the other, leads to the other, leads to the other, So anyway, I don't know, maybe I'm like missing something or really missed the picture, but I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest, because I was like, big T trauma, like, when does it count? When it's all big if you can't process it. And so I just kind of wanted to share that. Y'all have a good night.